out there we're not about to miss. We worked hard and saved our dough, now we're packed and set to go. We're going on a cruise. The weather they say will be great. Well, I can tell you I can hardly wait. A sailor I may never be, still I love the open sea. We're going on a cruise. There is something doing all the time for everyone. Dining with the captain every evening will be fun. Set me in a deck chair and let me soak up sun. Won't have no blues, no, not on this cruise. We've waited a long time for this. That boat out there we're not about to miss. If this trip you can well afford, come on matey, come aboard. We're going on a cruise.
Okay, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Go ahead and give me a shout out in the chat if you can hear me. Let's see. I'm just waiting to see if everything is working right, because never is everything working right. Right, Shilo?
I'll say.
Give me a shout out if you can hear us. I see Moonser. Mark, Carl, Max,
Yep.
Ozzy. My goodness, we got a good crowd. Welcome aboard, everybody. It's been a little bit of a time since I've done a live stream last, but we are here today on the 16th of March, and to your right is Shilo. Everybody say hello to Shilo. Shilo, say hello.
Hello, everybody.
And on my left side is a newcomer. We've been friends now. Gosh, it's been a couple of months, I think. And I appeared on his channel a couple of weeks ago. And James is the host of the All American Travels channel. Say hello to James. James, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Steve. Hi, Shilo. How's everyone doing?
Well, I know I'm doing pretty good. As usual, yeah, we had some. Oh my God, Alex is here. Alex is giving a shout out. That's great. Glad to see you, Alex. Alex was invited to come on. He has been super busy trying to get some content created, and he just recently released a update for March 2024. And he was very gracious and asked me if it was going to step on my toes, and I said no. He actually helped me out because Alex has said that I can go ahead and show a little bit. We're going to show just the first minute or so of his update, and I'm going to invite everybody to go to Alex the Historian's channel and view his March 2024 update, because it's definitely got a lot of information in there, which we're going to tackle a little bit on. We're going to just discuss a little bit. But he shows a couple of things that I definitely want to show to all of you. So we're going to see that on a little bit of his first few minutes of video. In a couple of weeks, Shilo and I are going to be on board. We're going to do some live streams, I think, from the ship. I want to show. I think we're going to go into this now. Shilo, tell me if you agree with this or not. I think that this new Meet Me on the Mary event that they have on Tuesday nights is probably one of the best ideas they've had in a long time.
Oh, for sure, because not only does it bring a lot of people into the ship during that day, which is, I mean, you wouldn't think of a Tuesday to be really one of their busiest days, but it has become one of their busiest days. And not only is it an event that brings a lot of people, it's an event that's true to the period. You know, because the singer, she's got a great voice. She sings the period music, the standards, and she has her clothes, and even the band's clothes are period accurate.
Music is great. Her voice is terrific. What is her name again?
Ashley Ann?
Ashley Ann. And so they perform live in the observation bar. I think it's between 6 and 10 in the
I
evening.
thought it began at 4.
They start at 4?
I believe it's
Oh,
4.
I was thinking it was starting at 6, but okay. But the wonderful thing about Meet Me at the Mary, which is a great name, I think it's a wonderful name for the event, is that there's no charge for admission to the ship, and there's no parking charge, which is fantastic. So it's an event that brings a lot of local people. They've been having a lot of local people come out, and I know that our friend Milad's been there a couple of times, but yeah, I've got to experience this. So I'm looking forward. That'll be 2 weeks from Tuesday, right? The 2nd.
Yeah, it will be a Tuesday. Yeah.
Yeah, April 2nd. So we'll probably do a little bit of live stream. I don't want to get into too much of that on board because it's going to be pretty crazy. And you
we got to make sure that it's a place that we can get good reception, because last time we tried that, remember?
Yep. The last time I tried to do a little bit of a live stream from the observation bar, it didn't go very well.
Well, if we also choose a different location, we got to make sure that we have constant connection also, and shortly.
Yep, that's it exactly. Jamie, I know that James. Boy, I'm thinking of Jamie. Jamie's on here too, but James, they're saying you're too dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got another light pointed on me. My camera is just pointing at the bay window. I'm not sure why it's doing that.
I was gonna say, shift your body so that your head is more behind the window.
Let's see.
But come up closer to the camera.
Let me see if I can just scoot myself closer to the computer.
That is much better.
There.
That is, yeah. As long as you can maybe block some of that sunlight a little bit, I think that'll be good.
Yeah.
All right.
That's what I get for not buying black curtains.
Yeah, I know. I need to get some myself. Let's see. So Shilo, you're gonna be here you're gonna be on Tuesday on the 2nd, and I'm gonna be actually on board the 2nd and 3rd and 4th of April. And during that time, I've got tentative arrangements to do some interviews, looking at getting some words from Steve Koloka, the general manager, John Thomas, hopefully the historic resources advisor for the Queen Mary. And we're also looking at getting a couple of other interviews I need to still find out, but I'll fill you in more when those get more confirmed. But some top key people with the ship, we'll just say that. Shilo, you're coming, and we're going to discuss this here in our next segment, but you're already dressed in your deck steward's uniform, which looks pretty sharp. And I like the whole look with the glasses too.
I think I was looking at it and I was thinking, I think the glasses would look better with it.
They do. They absolutely do. But you're not wearing your cap right now.
No, but I will be on Tuesday.
So Shilo's in the middle of getting some new items for his uniform. He's gonna wear it on board in a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna go through all that. In fact, I'm wearing one of Shilo's sweaters. I know it's backwards for most of you, but it's my Cunard White Star sweater, which I've worn on board a couple of times. Yeah, Ozzy says I need a drink on board. One? Just a drink? I think that'll probably be like 2, maybe 3. It depends on the evening, I guess. All right. Let's go ahead and get started on talking about some updates on the Queen Mary. And we're going to start out, Alex, if you're still here, we're going to see your lovely face. And I'm just going to play the first minute and 27 seconds, I think, of his video. So give me 1 second here. Oops, we're on the wrong tab. There we go. That's it. There we go. Here we go.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the March 2024 construction update of the RMS Queen Mary in Long Beach, California. I am your host, Alex the Historian, a historic enthusiast of this stately ship, the Queen Mary. This video will not be like my usual videos. It's kind of off script, but what I will be doing is reading for you the most recent information regarding the construction of the Queen Mary and the development of the land around it. But first, let's talk about some of the things that have been going on around the Queen Mary since you last saw my previous update, which was in January, or December as well. So far, on the promenade deck, the forward promenade deck, the replacement of the railing project has been completed, and they have actually already added the glass wind barriers on the forward end of the promenade.
So I'm going to go ahead and pause it right here. So they had removed. We're seeing right here the old aluminum framed plexiglass windows. It's more of a wind. It was more of a wind barrier because it gets very windy out on that forward end of prom deck. And it's it's so that you can have the outdoor seating for the observation bar without being interrupted by the huge gusts of wind, and that happens almost daily. Especially in the evening hours when you start to get to sunset. So this port is a good windscreen, but I mean, you can take a look at that. Yeah, Mark's exactly right. Old windows were very ugly. They were absolutely atrocious. Because they were plexiglass, they started to craze, which basically they turned to translucent, or not translucent, but translucent plexiglass. Instead of, you can't see through it, but it allows light through. It was horrible.
Not to mention the scratches that became visible, and because over time they got pretty scratched up.
Yeah, they get scratched up, and those aluminum frames were bulky. It changed the whole look of the profile of the ship. James, I know James has never been to the Queen Mary before. James, we're hoping that you make it out to the Queen Mary soon. Oops, let me put you.
Me too.
But I know you're a little bit familiar with some of the areas on board, and I don't know if you can see that now because you're a little bit delayed on the video. But these were added, I think, sometime in I think they're a Disney era thing. I think Disney put them in. I think late 80s, and had remained there all the way until 2017. Yeah, until 2019 when the ship closed, or 2020 when the ship closed.
What purpose did this serve?
Purely as a windscreen, so that it allows. See, you can see that there's tables and chairs that are set up out there, and so the observation bar has a pretty good amount of capacity, but the observation bar gets pretty popular, especially in the evenings. And so they wanted to have the outdoor seating so they could, have that overflow. But the wind is really too much to deal with. You didn't want to sit out there with the wind blowing in your face. And if you had food, because they do serve a little bit of like hors d'oeuvres, warm like nachos and that kind of stuff. You wouldn't want to have the wind
Pick it
blowing
up,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. So that
But I was gonna say that I think that one of the most atrocious things about that old wind barrier was that there's doors that are blocking the
right.
curvature of the promenade.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um. But yeah, do you think that this was a right thing to do for the historical aspect of the profile of the ship,
Definitely not.
James?
No.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah. So we'll go back on to Alex's video here really quick, and he's going to show us what the new windscreens look like.
These wind barriers do not look like the ones that were there before, which were made of plexiglass with some really intrusive, thick metal bars that kind of supported the whole structure. Now, of course, that was not original to the ship, but even still, the new glass wind barriers actually are not as intrusive as they may seem. This isn't such a bad compromise.
Okay, so we'll leave it right there. So let me just go a few seconds back so we can see what they look like. So there's a good comparison right there of how very low profile. What was the word that Alex just used? Intrusive, and yeah, they're less intrusive to the view, in my opinion. You might have to wait a few seconds for it to show up, but Shilo, can you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I know what they look like too,
Yeah.
but it's I think because of the tint also helps when you're like on the pier or if you're on the forecastle and you're looking to the superstructure, the tint of it kind of hides that there's even glass there, so you barely can notice it at all.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
fact that there's flames too.
James, can you see that the more recent picture right there?
Yes, I can see it.
Yeah, that to me is probably one of the best. Oops, let me go back to. We're cutting ourselves off there. One of the best improvements that they've made, uh, because it's definite that the windscreen had to be back. Otherwise, that limits the seating capacity for the observation bar, and it
You know,
does get really crazy.
I have seen though that they're doing recently for the Meet Me at the Mary. I don't know if it's a permanent thing or if it was just because they had so many people come to the event that they had
Mm.
to do this. But I've seen them to start put chairs and tables out where the third class promenade was underneath this deck. Well, where this picture was taken, if it's the same one I'm looking at now. And they've been starting to put tables out there as well.
Yeah, because the last time there were a couple of tables and chairs. I think they've added some more. I don't know if they've.
Well, from the video I saw, the entire looked like the entire at least the starboard side was completely covered with tables and chairs. So
Yeah, and I think they're really trying to increase, the, you know, I think we've talked about this before, but when the ship closed in 2020 and Urban Commons left the scene, it was almost like moving vans must have been backed up to the entrance of the ship, and because a lot of stuff that was on board disappeared.
mhm.
Lots of furniture has disappeared from the ship. Not necessarily original furniture, but furniture. Stuff that Urban Commons had bought. It should have remained, in my opinion, it should have remained with the ship. But uh, it was like a moving van showed up, after closure during the whole COVID, shutdown. And to be clear, the Queen Mary's 2.5 year shutdown was not COVID related. It really had to do with Urban Commons
Yeah,
just completely.
that whole
It,
situation was a mess.
oh
So yeah.
yeah, it was horrible, absolutely horrible.
What I did see, and I think I have a few photos of it somewhere, but what I did see is that there was similar to what you're describing just now, was there was a big truck it didn't have, it wasn't like a container truck. It looked like a one that they use for gravel, open top, and they had a bunch of furniture in there just piled. But it wasn't original furniture. It was furniture that I remember seeing in 2018, 2019.
Yeah,
So it was the hotel furniture.
yeah, and I've seen dumpsters brought up to the ship where they had, they had furniture that was maybe from the 80s, from the 90s,
Mm,
not necessarily in bad condition, but probably needed to be reupholstered. But
yeah,
as far as
but
how they
time was
felt, they dumped it.
yeah.
James, are you familiar with what happened with the Queen Mary during the whole COVID crisis?
Not really.
So I'll give you a little bit of a background, and this will be a background for uh, some of those that are watching as well. So I was on board in March of 2020. I think I came there on the 9th of March, and literally like a week later, the Queen Mary had announced that the hotel was closing, but
Mhm.
it was a I'm trying to think of the word. Not a quarantine center, but you could go there. Gosh, it's been so long now. It's been almost 4 years. Um, you had the ability to book to stay if it was an emergency kind of situation. It was really kind of
Yeah.
weird, and that went on for about a month until maybe about May. Yeah, maybe early May, and then the announcement was made that the ship was fully closing and went to a skeleton crew. Well, around that same time, within a few months of each other, was when Urban Commons, who was the leaseholder of the ship, made the announcement to the media that they were filing for bankruptcy, that they were basically relinquishing their master lease for the ship. Um, but and I'm not going to go into the super detail on this, but they they got PPP loans. They got two PPP loans to supposedly, pay the crew, pay all the employees during that whole COVID shutdown, their wages, which they didn't get paid. Um, they legally weren't able to even pay or get two PPP loans, but they got two. Um, it turned out that millions of dollars had been embezzled by two of the chief representatives of the board, I guess, for Urban Commons, had embezzled funds, placed them into offshore accounts. Um, Urban Commons was probably the worst thing that ever happened to the Queen Mary as far as management was concerned, and
Mhm.
it couldn't have happened at a worse time. And I think that's what woke the city up and realized that we have to take back control, which is the best thing that has happened to the Queen Mary.
Yeah.
Could you clarify something for me real quick?
Sure.
So all these different companies, organizations that were leaseholders at one point or another, the city never relinquished ownership of the ship. Is that correct?
No, the city has always owned the Queen Mary, since day one. There's been a transfer of, it went between the city and the harbor department for the city, but the city itself has always owned the vessel.
Mhm.
But the ship had been under a master lease to another company since 1980. So,
Uh, there
all
was
right,
some there was some questions that were said during the when we were talking. One of them was from Carl, and he says, "On the topic of furniture, as Queen Mary's present operator is trying to angle a ship as an experience, do they intend on making reproduction furniture anywhere?" And I think you can attest to that, Steve.
yeah. So yeah, I absolutely can, absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna play this. I don't really need to play this down, but uh, but Alex also discusses the aft funnel. So the aft funnel, which is what it looked like here, which was from a botched 2017 paint job. has been completely repainted. Let's see if he's going to show us here on the new paint scheme. But they they completely sanded down the paint that had been botched and put a gray primer. And there's the new paint right there. I'm gonna pause it real quick. So, and unfortunately, it now looks better than the other two.
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and this was nearly a $500,000 paint job. This is uh not a cheap uh job to have done on the ship. But this has been all due to uh, well, they've having recent the parking situation has now been remedied where they've now got new automated parking gates. So you go in, you get your ticket, you can actually pay at a kiosk at the wharf side, or you can pay
Yep.
by credit or debit card as you leave the ship. Prior to that, it was kind of an honor system. You
Oh,
could pay, but you didn't really have to pay.
yeah.
But so that they've been getting the revenue from parking for that now, um, plus the percentage, the restoration fees that come from the hotel bookings, the percentage that comes from the Carnival passengers that are boarding the Carnival ships at the cruise terminal, and I
Mm-hmm.
believe they also get a percentage of the parking uh, from the long term, the cruise terminal parking as well. So there's been a lot of money that's been coming back to the ship. They've spent now they've at $45 million is the cost that has been spent on the ship. Since 2021, I believe that would be about the start of. Um, Unfortunately, Urban Commons was given $23 million. They basically squandered that $23 million. So some of it went to some work, but a lot of the work that had been done with that $23 million has it's gone to crap. The redecking of main deck forward was all new wood decking. It's not teak. It's a Brazilian wood, but I can't remember what the name of it is. Uh, Looked beautiful in 2020 when I saw it. You look at it today, and it looks just as bad as Sundeck.
Yeah.
It's in pretty poor condition. It hasn't been maintained. Um, you do have to uh, do some maintenance on wood decking. You can't just allow it to sit in the sun and sit in the weather without something done to it. Cleaning would be the best thing if they got rid of the dirt and the contaminants that come in from the air and
The rain.
the rain. Exactly. Um, so these are the two main things that have been on the ship, uh, and I'm gonna again encourage everybody to watch Alex's uh, update because he goes into some really good detail on some of the financial stuff that's going on. Uh, Also, the plans that Steve Kaloka brings up of some work on Sundeck app. They want to redo portions of. They want to do the app portion of Sundeck. The questions remaining of are they looking at putting back the gazebo?
Mm.
They had James. They had a wedding chapel out there. Let me see if I can pull up that really quick. Just show a picture of it. No, yeah, I'll play that right there.
So all the beautiful spaces on that ship, and they felt the need to add a wedding chapel.
Oops. Yeah, right.
Well, initially it was converted from the second class smoking room,
Oh golly. Okay, I just
I see.
really messed
but
everything up here. Oh,
but
give me
luckily most of the interiors of that room still exist, so that's a good thing.
Oh, good grief! How did I do this? Okay, here we go.
But as you'll see, they had a big gazebo where the tennis courts used to be, which is on top of the second class main lounge.
Okay, so this is aft sun deck area, which leads out onto a portion of prom deck that has the dome over the uh, what was the second class main lounge. And Disney had built this area, which used to be a tennis court for second class. They had built like a stage there, and they did a stage production musical thing back in the late 1980s, early 1990s, and then in the late 1990s, they had converted it into a wedding uh, venue, so that they had a little gazebo there. People could go ahead and uh, perform their vows on in that area. I want to pause it again. They recently ripped that all up. They took that all out, and the question's been, are they going to put it back? The even the question of the wedding chapel itself, which was the second class smoking room, uh,
Mm-hmm.
is also questioned. The rumor has it that the second class smoking room is going to go back to more of a like maybe an art venue where they show some of the artwork from the Queen Mary's interiors that are currently
Or
not out on display or in their original positions. They want to display them in
furniture and
furniture, art, all that. So we're kind of waiting word on what their intentions are. They're uh, as far as I understand, they've been getting pretty good bookings on weddings, but the chapel itself hasn't really gotten a lot of activity, um, at least in the years prior to COVID. I hardly ever saw. I shouldn't say hardly ever. I saw less and less of weddings taking place in the chapel itself. Usually, the weddings were in one of the other public spaces, like the first class lounge, the
Mhm.
Queen Salon, um, or the Britannia Salons on occasion, or the Royal Salon. Um, and the wedding chapel still has a lot of its original interior, and it would be nice if it was no longer a wedding chapel. I think.
Mhm. Alex says that if he plays the video a little further, that he shows the before and after of the gazebo.
Alex says, show the. Okay, I will go ahead and I will play a little bit more of that. We'll let it go a little bit further, and you can see the gazebo. They've been having issues with the decking. Um, they have laid plywood sheets over the existing teak because
Mhm.
of leakage, and that hasn't quite been working out. It's because the teak deck itself is actually rotting. So
Yeah.
it's become a tripping hazard, especially if you have women in high heel shoes. Um, they could literally get it. Oh my gosh, if they're out there in stiletto, a stiletto heel would probably go through a teak plank or at least get stuck between the planks.
Wedge itself in it, yeah.
Yeah, not exactly a good idea. So they've been doing what they can to continue to allow the public to be able to come out on Sunday, um, as cheaply as they possibly can. There's a shot of the original tennis courts. You had the first class tennis courts on prom deck, and then you had on main deck, which was the dome section, was the second class tennis courts, and there's the gazebo, what it looked like, and that's what it looks like now. Anyway, um, so oh gosh, I did it again. Why do I keep doing that?
Hmm.
No, there we go. Um, so on the situation with money, um, there's been some articles that have been coming out uh, of the $45 million that has been spent, and a lot of people have been screaming in the public comments in social media of a waste of taxpayer dollars, and the public doesn't seem to understand that tax taxpayer dollars are not what fund the ship, and that's been something that has hurt the Queen Mary um, in the public eye. I think that because they believe that because the city owns the Queen Mary, that it's taxpayer dollars that are supporting the Queen Mary, even in her, her red era of deficits,
Mhm.
and it hasn't been. But that's I just wanted to comment on that. Don't believe everything you think or hear about taxpayer dollars going to the Queen Mary.
Yep.
Well, so we're gonna bring some more in the next couple of weeks live from the ship, um, to give you some. If we spot anything else that has been happening with the
Yeah.
Queen Mary, we'll cover that here in the next couple of weeks. Any comments on the Queen
I was I,
Mary?
wa- I wanted to address what Carl was asking earlier
Yeah.
though about and his furniture being thinking about making replica furniture that's period accurate or service accurate, and like I said, you can attest to that.
Oh yeah. I know that they've been talking about wanting to get period style, or at least similar style of what Queen Mary had. To have custom furniture made would be an expense that I don't think the ship
Mhm.
can afford.
And if they can, it'd have to be select locations where they'd be able to put it.
Right now, I would say the most dire need for furniture is the rooms.
Hmm.
I love staying on the ship. I love staying in the original rooms, but I need a table and chair in my room.
Yeah,
I
and
need a
some of them
place.
used to.
Yeah, well, they all used to.
Well,
That's
but
part of that
yeah,
whole the moving van showing up to the ship.
mhm.
Those rooms had tables and chairs, every single one of them.
And I think even their promotional photos on their website for their hotel rooms, they still show them in there too.
Yeah, they do, and that's kind of a misleading thing because you're expecting to have that in your room.
Hmm.
James, if you come to the Queen Mary, you're gonna want to stay in the hotel.
I would certainly like to.
Yeah, I think you should. I think at least 1 or 2 nights would be a good. You know, coming on board for the day is one thing. Um, and Shilo can probably attest to this too.
Mhm.
There's nothing like being on board late at night when everybody's gone home. This is sometimes maybe midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. If you can't sleep, it's the perfect thing to do. It's just to put on some shorts or some sweatpants and wander the interior decks. Wander the hotel area, main deck, A deck, B deck. Um, the the loud silence of the ship. Yet there's so much going on. You hear, you hear, um, the air conditioning, ventilation. You hear the occasional noises from, there might be some work going on still in the kitchens down below, kitchens from above on prom deck. Um, and in the very early mornings, if you're up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, you'll start to hear, the occasional vacuum cleaner from housekeeping going on, but there's still not the public up yet. And so to wander
Mhm.
the decks at that time is it's the best experience in the world. What do you think, Shiloh?
I agree. And also just to walk up on sun deck or sports deck and hear the vents.
Yes,
Mhm.
and yeah, and you hear the sounds of the harbor, you know,
Yeah.
the moving, the containers being loaded onto ships.
Yes. Yeah, that's one of my favorite sounds at night. Yeah.
It is. It is. It's the experience that you can't get anywhere else.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
So
Uh,
when someone goes to tour the ship,
Mm-hmm.
let's say you're not staying in the hotel, you're just going to tour it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a guided tour? Is it a self-guided tour? How long does it take? How does that work?
So you can wander the ship on your own, pretty much. I don't know if I guess they're still giving out. Um, wait a minute. Do I have one? No, I don't have one. they gave out little self-guided tour maps of the ship. But if you want to see the more interesting areas like the swimming pool, um,
Or like to be in the swimming pool at least.
yeah, or the boiler room areas, uh, or just basically below deck area,
Yeah.
then there are different guided tours that you can take. So you've got the
Well, also the main lounge as well. Those kinds of.
yeah, the main lounge, the first class main lounge is normally locked, which
Mhm.
is which is something that Alex and I have both discussed in videos of that we really don't feel it should be um, locked. You know, uh, but for the guided tours, they'll take you into the main lounge. They'll take you into a suite. They'll take you into some of the locked areas of third class. I think you walk down onto the C deck. You see what remains of the working alleyway. Remember, James, we talked about the working alleyway. Guess it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
And so you get to see a little bit of what remains of the working alleyway on board. Yeah, and I think the guided tours are definitely worth taking, but they're not. You don't necessarily have to take them to be on board. Like and uh, the although you don't have to be into the whole ghost thing, but the paranormal tours are actually pretty good as far as where they take you. In fact, they take you
Mhm.
into some areas that you can't normally see on any of the other tours. I think
Yeah.
they
I would
take you.
definitely be interested in that.
You would, yeah, yeah. I think they take you into B deck forward, which they don't take you into B deck forward, and that's the mail sorting room, rope storage, that kind of stuff. That's not the thing for passengers. In her heyday. So if you take a Glory Days tour, you don't go into B deck forward, but in the
Yeah.
paranormal tour, they'll take you into B deck forward. So, uh, yeah. So they've all got their highlights of what they show you, and I think it's just up to you on what you want to decide. They, they're I think they're $35 per person.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I'm not normally one that has to or pays for the guided tours because I just don't really need to take them myself.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think there's something like that. But I think you do get it. Like if you stay in the hotel, I think there's a reduced rate for hotel guests.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I would when you come, James, I'll probably be there to give you a tour myself. But I would also recommend
Yep.
taking one of the
That
guided
sounds like a
tours.
plan.
Sounds good. All right.
Oh, Alex mentioned something with the furniture too. Is that the observation bar is going to be getting new flooring and furniture?
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it. You know, the question is going to be, what are they going to put in there?
Yeah.
Um, I have mixed emotions on their trustworthiness, on accuracy. I
Mhm.
I I, I think John Thomas is a great guy, but I things that have been done in the past haven't always been spot on,
Yeah.
and so the proof is in the pudding. Let's see here. I was just looking at some of the comments in the chat. Mark makes a comment. He says, "I'd never sleep. I'd want to see every inch of the ship." Yeah, I've pulled all nighters. um, wait a minute. And Ozzy was saying, and have alcohol with Steve. Well, I've had some all nighters. Some of them with alcohol, some of them without alcohol. But I can't pull all nighters anymore on the ship. I've been I've wandered around too much at night so many times and then regretted it the next day because the older I get, the less I can actually handle being up all night. And I think that's the thing that sucks about getting older is you think you're invincible, and then you prove to yourself that you're not. All right. Um. So Shiloh, are you ready to show us a little bit about cosplay?
Have we covered pretty much everything on the updates?
Oh, actually, you know what? Before we even do that, let's do that. So if anybody's got any questions about the about updates or what we're going to be doing here in the next couple of weeks, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We'll try and answer them here really quick. Um, James, when do you think you might get out to the Queen Mary? Have you thought about it?
Not really, to be honest with you. I've got some trips planned later for this year. Unfortunately, she's not on the agenda. My best guess would earliest time I could do would probably be like next year.
And while I'm waiting to see if there's any comments in the chat, why don't you show us your Queen Mary model that you just made?
Oh.
Oh, I think you meant mute.
Yeah, I got to push the talk on. All right, so here she is. Let's see if I can get her all in frame here and get her level. But yep, there she is. Do a
That's
little
a Rebel.
spin
That's a
around.
Rebel model.
So it's Modelcraft on the box, but I want to say this was a kit that was probably in production by Revell at some point. She's actually one of my favorite models that I've done, just because I'm really proud of the work that I did on the ship.
Yeah.
That looks really nice.
And if I
Thank
can
you.
see, you
Thank you.
did rigging on there as well. You got
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably not 100% accurate to the ship, but yeah, I try to get them as close as possible when I do rigging.
yeah.
It's pretty close. I see you got the boom crane rigging too.
Yes.
Hmm.
Well, that's great. And you've got other models, and we could probably spend another hour going through all of your models that you've got.
Possibly, yes. I just finished that Titanic you see there on the bottom shelf, and I'm working on Olympic right now.
Throw that out. Throw us out and show us Titanic really quick.
I was laughing about Carl said. Did you see what he said?
Let's see here. Am I scrolled? Let's see. Who did he say it to?
Me. He was.
Oh.
All right, so this is a Revell 1-700 Titanic. I just recently finished this. In fact, I put the part one of the build video out on my channel a couple of days ago. I'm a bit more familiar with her, of course, so my rigging is a little bit more accurate on this one. And like I said, I'm working on Olympic right now.
And you've got a Britannic you're also working on, right?
I started Britannic. It's going to be a conversion from a Titanic model, and I just started on that a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Well,
I see you got the radio room rigging too.
Yes, I have to have the Marconi stuff correct when I do my models, at least on these ships.
Well, yeah, the Olympic and Titanic are gonna probably look fantastic when you're done with them. So I can't wait to see what they look like. And
yeah, well, with the Olympic class, the Marconi rigging, that's one of the features that stand out the most to me on those ships. So it's something I have to get correct on my models when I build them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right. Well, before we move on to Shilo, I just wanted to say thank you to Alex for letting me show some of your video. Please visit again to Alex the Historian's channel. Watch his March 2024 Queen Mary update. He'll go much more into detail on some of the article that was written with Steve Kaloka's discussion of some of the finances with the ship and plans for the rest of the year. Alex, thank you. Great. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change our position here to Shilo. And maybe I can probably bring that down a little bit. Okay, oops. I did it again. There we go. That's probably better. Okay. All right, Shilo. So the question
I'm in frame.
What's that?
I'm in frame.
Yeah, you're in frame. You're good.
Okay.
The first question I'm going to have for you is, what got you started on doing Queen Mary or Cunard line uniforms, and
I
when?
think I think it started with, and I'll have it right here. It started with a listing I saw with a stateroom or utility key that's mounted on a board, and it came with an original deckhand cap, which is this cap right here.
And that's the same ribbon that we're seeing in the screen right below you there. That's the
Yeah, but the one in the picture is the reproduction I made. This one is an original.
that's an original. And the ones that say RMS Queen Mary, they were special. They were not ones that you would normally see on the ship, correct?
Yeah, because if you look on the top, the Cunard White Star one would have been the standard from. I haven't seen too many of them in 1936, which is interesting. They usually have, well, they do have Cunard White Star, but some of them still said Cunard. But they were around in 36, and then in 37, 38, 39, that's when they were using them often. And that's when these were around. And I've often seen these, which is this is a replica I made. Well, I had made. This ribbon is made by the official Royal Navy ribbon supplier, so this is an official ribbon. But this one is the Cunard White Star one. And the difference between this is obviously the color. This one is the white vinyl cover top, and this one is a white wool. I mean, white wool, navy blue wool, almost black. And this
Almost
was
black.
common. And this was common in the 30s, and even in the late 40s. I've seen some up to 49, not on the Queen Mary, on other Cunard liners. But I'm assuming they were around on the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. But these kind of died out around the, I don't know, maybe 1950. I haven't seen them since. So this one is kind of the pre-war cap. But this is what got me started right here, probably, was this cap. And, I wanted to wear it on board the ship, and I did, and I didn't have a uniform, I realized. I just had the cap. So I thought, what kind of uniform can I wear? So I was looking around, and I saw one of those original ads of a deckhand climbing on some rigging, and I saw he had a sweater, and it said Cunard. But I knew that the bottom, there was more down there. I'm like, that's probably Cunard White Star. So I made for myself the same sweater that you're wearing, and I'm like, okay, great. So I got a deckhand uniform now, and for years that was what I had. And then later I got into a Commodore's uniform. It wasn't an official one. It was one that I had for Halloween a long time ago, and I converted it into a Commodore uniform. And then over COVID, I was thinking, why don't I get an official one? So I started with the summer uniform with the shoulder boards, and then I had a different cap, which I actually dismantled because it's not an official one. So I'm using pieces of it to put together to use an official one, which is my deck steward cap. But I got this recently, which is a captain's cap or Commodore's, either one. And this one is interesting because if you look at the cap badge as opposed to here's an official one. If you see the line is made out of metal,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
pin slides. This one is actually embroidered out of bullion.
Was there a
So that's
difference between in time period as to the gold metal lion versus the embroidered lion?
well, I'm not sure about that because I asked Everett about that because I thought because this was made in the 70s, I believe, because this belonged to one of the Queen Mary's first tour guides. This was
Okay.
his uniform cap. So he had that custom made along with the cap. And I asked Everett about it, and he said that he's seen the embroidered lines before on official uniforms, but it was always usually this type of pin lion, which is what I've seen too consistently. And I have seen the embroidered ones, but I think it's special because it looks nicer, I think.
Yeah, I agree
But
too.
mhm. But this cap is also special because during the 80s when John Treasure Jones visited the ship, he actually wore this cap for a photo shoot.
Oh my gosh.
So this is a really special cap.
So going back really quick on that cap, is that an original Cunard line cap that was used by a tour guide on board the Queen Mary in the 70s?
Um, to the effect of being original Cunard, yes and no, because this was made in the 70s,
Okay.
but it
So
was
it's
made by the same people who made the 30s and 40s and 50s caps.
I gotcha. I gotcha.
Hmm
So you
The badge as well.
so in hats, um what do you think you have spent money wise on used versus
Well,
original caps that you've found on through like eBay and that kind of stuff?
that's kind of a mixed question for the general public who's interested in doing this kind of thing because I got quite lucky with a lot of these. If I remember correctly, this cap right here, it came with 2 items, so I can't remember the price for this cap. But I believe it was around, like, $70 for both of them. But, again, it's also being sold by somebody who doesn't understand the value of the cap,
Sure.
so I got lucky with that. This one, on the other hand, I had to pay full price for because it's coming from suppliers. So, because I mean, you can find these caps online, these navy blue wool ones, but they're
Mhm.
just either A, extremely hard to find, or B, they're just super expensive because they're all from the '40s.
Sure.
Nobody really makes reproduction of these. So I got really lucky and I found one place out of all the places that makes reproduction military uniform, only one place made these, and I think it was like $49 if I remember correctly.
That's not bad at
And
all.
it's not, and it's a really nice hat. It's got, lining, if you can see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, it's not, incomplete in any way. It's a really nice cap. And, if anything, I kinda like the color of this one over the original one. I don't know, I just like the blue look.
Yeah.
But, this one, it was hard to track down, but it wasn't that expensive because I had, doubles of these ribbons made because that was the minimum they allowed you.
So
So
on the making of the ribbons,
mhm.
um, did you find you got the ribbons from an official uniform source,
Yeah.
and then you had them lettered?
Yeah, 'cause they have, just for people or sailors in the Navy, Royal Navy, that are, being transferred to different ships or are being, they just signed up and they're being assigned to a ship. They could just look up their ship on the website, and then they already have their ribbon pre-made, and they can just order that.
So
But there
the ribbons are still used by the British Royal Navy today, then, correct?
and as far as I'm aware, it's more of like a ceremonial uniform, that's what it's part of. I don't think they wear that, as they would have in the past.
And the white cap that you had,
Yeah,
the white sailor cap,
yeah.
is that a standard Royal Navy use now?
The white, yes. I mean, this
Okay.
is obviously a little faded, now it's like a little peach colored, but yes, it looks just like, the standard, modern day Royal Navy caps, except theirs kind of has a different shape to it, but it's the same cap more or less.
How easy has it been that you've looked at so far on finding um, the modern white Royal Navy
The
caps for sale?
so that's a good thing about this kind of uniform is that these white caps are extremely easy to find. You can either get them in surplus, unworn, brand new, or you can actually go and find some from the '60s, '70s, '80s, even to the '20s of these caps because they haven't really changed much in design.
Mm.
And some of them are a little pricey, especially from the surplus stores. Because
Hmm.
I've this what did I get from them? Oh no, it was my. We'll see it in pictures in a few minutes, but the deckhand uniform I had or the quartermaster uniform I had with the scarf on it, that came from a, uh, surplus store in London. So that stuff can get a little expensive because of shipping and all that. But if they're already here in America, which a lot of them are for some reason, but if you can find one, they're not that expensive at all. The only thing that would be, maybe a little bit expensive was, having one of these made.
What did that cost you to have those
Well,
printed?
from the place I got it made from, you had to get it in doubles. You had to get double of them because that was the minimum they allowed you to make because they're used to making, ribbons in mass quantity.
Okay.
So so I think what was that? I think it was around, like, $30 if I remember correctly.
Again, I'm not hearing astronomical dollar figures.
No. Oh, yeah, I think at the most, if you're creating a lot of them, it'd probably be 60, which again isn't terrible,
So
so this
would you say that putting together like an entire uniform, let's say you're talking about pants, jacket, cap, with the proper insignia on the cap.
so if you have 2 there's two versions technically of a deckhand uniform and a quartermaster uniform. There's the sweater that you're wearing, which you can make from just getting a black sweater, which is what I did for both of these. You get a black sweater, and then you can go to Michael's or any hobby store, and they have like iron-on letters, and those are what those are, and they look very, very similar to the official ones.
Yeah.
So what I do is I arrange them on the sweater, and then I glue them, and then I iron them so that it's double adhesive on there, and that's how I make that. So that's fairly simple to make, and it's again that's not expensive at all.
I was gonna say
The letters
I
are
probably washed this at least 6 or 7 or 8 times since because every time I go out, every time I've been with you, we've gone to the ship, and I
mhm.
brought this. I once I've worn it, I need to wash it.
Yeah,
And yeah, and I've been wondering, like, God, am I gonna find like a letter? But these letters are still very securely glued
mhm,
to the material. No signs of them even
and that
beginning to
was
come
that
off.
was that was something I was wondering about too because I gave yours extra adhesive than mine has, so
Yeah, it's
everything
held
looks
up very well, I think.
good.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so that's it's good to know then if you use double adhesive, then it'd stay on. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good information. But yeah, that uniform is quite easy to make and to acquire because all you need at that point is probably white pants, and that would go with the uniform. And, just dress pants or because what I have are like corduroys, which is what they would have worn, white corduroys,
Right.
and then like Sperry deck shoes.
So let's take a look at some of the photographs that you sent me to show.
Mhm.
Um, so the first one I've got right now is your two ribbon your cap ribbons, the Cunard
Yeah.
White Star and the RMS Queen Mary. And now they did have Cunard line ones as well, correct?
Yes, there was ones that said just Cunard.
Okay.
Mhm.
Have you ever seen one for Queen Elizabeth, RMS Queen Elizabeth?
No.
I
And
couldn't
then
tell you if there was ever ones made for maiden voyage, maiden 1946 voyage,
yeah. And, that was what I was thinking too, is maybe that was a, ceremonial cap for the maiden voyage.
yeah,
But what I've been told is that's actually from the last great cruise.
from the last great cruise. Okay,
Mhm.
so it wasn't maiden voyage 36; it was the last great cruise 67.
Yeah, and which would explain that because I've never seen a deckhand wearing that.
Yeah.
So
All right, let's take a peek at some of the other pictures here we've got. So when it comes to cosplay, you have to go the full route, and
mhm.
you don't just go crew. You come on board a lot of times as a passenger, so you wear the period uh, proper dress for a gentleman coming on board. You've got luggage that dates back
Yeah.
to the time period. I see that you've got there's an old American Airlines baggage tag. You've got a French line baggage tag. You've got a Queen Mary identification tag on there. A Ritz. It looks like a Ritz Carlton or a Ritz hotel.
Barcelona, yeah.
Oh, in Barcelona. Okay. Um, with a nice raincoat and hat.
Mhm. Yeah. What's funny is that I bought those, the stickers, I bought them on the ship.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Wow. And they sell those in the gift shop.
Mhm, they have a lot of good selections in there, and they're nice because they're printed on like a it's hard to explain, it's like a canvasy, um, paper
Wow.
texture to it, so it's a really nice, sticker they have there, the collection, and I think they have, like, 3 different, collections. I
Hmm.
only bought the 2, but there's a lot in there, and the identification tag I made myself. I took a tissue box, and I
Hmm.
printed out 2 labels and then glued it, and I took what do you call it, the hole puncher,
Oh
and I
yeah.
punched a hole where the string goes through, and I tied it to the handle of the suitcase.
Wow. So we're looking at you with white pants and the
Oh,
sweater, and you're standing next to
Everett.
Commodore Everett Horde. Yeah. Now to see Everett in his uniform with you standing next to him, that's such a spot on photograph for one. Uh, but describe a little bit about the fun you can have just kind of walking on board. You know,
Yes. Yeah, and that's a good point. That's part of the reason why I continuously do it is because you'll be walking around and people will be in mid conversation. They stop and they double take and they look like because it's not like they can tell that it's not like a random uniform. Like it belongs to the ship.
Right.
And
Do you get stopped by people on board asking questions? Like where's the bathroom or?
it was funny because I was in my officer uniform last time we were on board the ship, and I got stuck in the elevator trying to go down in the original elevator, and I got stuck in there, and then because people kept coming in, going out, and I had no chance to get out, so I became elevator operator for like 10 minutes. So I was in there. There would be crew members who would walk in. I said hello to them. They'd leave, and then at one point, even the ship's pianist, Scott McDonald, was in there, and I was talking to him for a little while, and then he left. But everybody was just like looking at my uniform the whole time. It was cool. But I'd be in the deckhand uniform, the one you see in the picture, and I always have people, always ask me, "Where do you get that sweater? Are they sell that on board?" Or
They should.
yeah.
I don't think back in the 90s, they sold hoodies in this
Mhm.
same color, and
Mhm.
instead of saying Cunard White Star, it just said RMS Queen Mary. In fact, I've still got one. It's a
Mhm.
little bit tight on me now, but other than having the hoodie part, it was still like the almost black. It wasn't completely black, but it was a really 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 dark blue, and with the white letters, and it was a big seller on board during that time, and I wish
I
they
can
would
imagine.
bring that back.
I would buy that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And and if they sold a sweater like this, just saying RMS Queen Mary instead of Cunard
Yeah.
White Star, because I don't think Cunard would be too happy.
Happy with them doing that,
Yeah.
yeah.
James, I have to tell you this story really quick. So we were on board one night, just kind of roaming around, and we were in the hotel area. We were B deck forward, I think.
Yeah,
Near
no,
the
no, where are we?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we were near the
Oh, no, we were by oh, yeah, you were,
B340
because you were
cabin.
by
Yeah,
the floor. Yeah.
and uh, Shilo was not wearing a uniform, but he was wearing period clothing. He was wearing he had nice fedora on.
Mhm.
A
You have a
different
picture of what I was wearing.
in your collection here. Yeah, when we get to
Yeah.
it. But what there was a group of people. Let's see, were they on a tour or were they just wandering?
They were wandering because they were sitting in
Yeah.
the floor.
So we thought what the great thing would be for Shiloh to stand in one of those little side corridors and wait for them to come by and then just kind of like be there. And so these people walked by and then saw Shiloh standing right there wearing this period clothing. And I don't think they didn't know how to react to you. I think
Well,
they thought
they
you
were
were a ghost.
they were starting to freak out when I was just there because I went to walk out the hallway just to see what was going on because I heard people there. I'm like, "But they're not leaving." I'm like, "I thought they were
Right.
checking me
Yeah.
So I go out there and I look at them, and I'm like, "Oh, it's just people," but they didn't think the same about me.
No.
So when I walked into the hallway, because the hallway we were in was pitch black because we were looking at some watertight door gears through the panels.
That's
So
what.
we were in there just in the dark. So
Yeah.
then I heard the talking stop. I'm like, "Oh, now I know what happened." So I walk out there to mess with them because I know what they're thinking now. So I walk out there and I'm just standing in the hallway, and they asked me the question, "When are you from?" That's what they said.
When, not where.
"When
When
when
are you from?
are you
Yeah.
from?" Yeah. So
But to,
that
to be
lasted.
fair, the Queen has a long history, so
Right.
Yeah.
it's a lot of eras to go through.
You
Yep.
have the whole space time continuum. It's not the where, it's the when.
Yep.
All right.
So
Well,
that was
yeah.
that
Go ahead.
last that lasted for like a few minutes, and they walked by. But I've had that happen, even during broad daylight. I'd be sitting in the lounge on A deck, and I'll be sitting in a chair that's just visible to the main stairwell. And I remember I think it was the same trip too. Well, it must have been, yeah. So it was before you came on the ship. So me and my mom were waiting,
Mm-hmm.
and his family was going up, and the family was already halfway up the stairs, and then these two little brother and sister were looking at each other, and they looked at me, and they stopped. and then and their family was already going up the stairs, and they were still on the stairs, standing in the same place, and they look at each other, and they look back at me, and then I had time to slip out of the chair and go to where it's not visible anymore, and I was so tempted to do that, but their mom came down and picked them back up. But yeah, yeah.
Wow. All right, we'll move on to the next picture here. We've got another shot of you, black and white shot. You're on main deck near the foremast.
Oh,
That's a good picture of you. But by the way, tell everybody how old you are.
I am 18, and people always think I'm 30 or around that age. But
I
yeah,
would have never guessed 18.
Yeah,
see?
no, absolutely
Yep.
not. And I'm hoping you have this picture in here, but there's a picture of him wearing like a an officer's cap.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's a great black and white photo, and you would swear he was an officer on the Queen Mary from the 1950s or even maybe late 1940s, and probably about in his early
Same
30s.
age.
So yeah.
Yeah, I have that picture in there.
Oh, good. All right. So this is a color picture of you standing, actually sitting near the
Dick Wench?
winch. Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
We're looking at your cap collection.
Oh, yeah, which I can show now.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and
So
explain a little
with
bit
this
about the cap collection.
so with this uniform I'm wearing now, this is it can be alternate to lounge steward, deck steward, or what I have on now right here is senior public room steward. But this would be my primary badge right here, which would be deck steward. And then you have the lounge steward.
Now
Which is
those were normally sewn onto your lapel, but tell
yeah.
everybody what you're planning on doing with them.
Well, currently I have a piece of tape and a safety pin holding them on, but what I'm going to be doing is I'll be getting some pin backs and I'll be sewing them into the backing and then sewing the backing on, so I can just alternate two pins whenever I feel like changing them. So that's why I have alternate versions. But
And that way
I have
you don't have a jacket, a coat that's dedicated to one
yeah,
particular look. You can change
yep,
your rank. You can change your
hmm
job position on board. That's a
exactly.
wonderful idea.
And then this too, I can wear it on other jackets or whatever to use as a pin in itself, so that
Yeah.
works too. But here is, along with the captain's cap I showed earlier, I bought this from the same guy, and this is an original deck steward's cap.
Now that would be the cap that you would be wearing right now.
Yeah, if I had the deck steward pin
I know.
on, it would with
Aaron
Yep.
said for you to put a hat on because he wanted to get a snapshot of you with you wearing your cap.
Yeah, I'll I'll get a cap on.
You don't want to mess your hair up, do you?
What?
I said you don't want to
This
mess your hair up, do you?
This is too small. That's what I was gonna say.
It won't hit your head?
It will, but it will be sitting on top, lopsided.
Oh, okay. Well, sorry, Aaron. You're gonna have to come to the Queen Mary and see Shilo in person to get a good picture of him, or wait until we upload one.
Yes, that's right. But so if you can see here, there's a badge up here with the Cunard and White Star flags.
Right.
And,
and that's an original badge.
yes,
Correct.
the original badge, original cap and everything.
Original cap and everything. Okay.
But the thing is that because it's too small, just a little bit, so is the band that it's sewn onto. This I don't know if you can see it, but it's on a woven black band. So I
Yes.
was thinking maybe I could take it off and put it on a cap that does fit me. But then I realized that because this is so old that the band is no longer elastic much. So
Yeah.
it's kind of in the same shape. So I didn't want to take the badge off of the original band, so I just decided to get it embroidered, and that's when these came along. Because I figured these would be simple to make, which they were. But then I was going to make the Cunard White Star flags embroidered. So the one I have currently is too large for the cap, so I have to get a separate one made. And once that will be fitted, then the entire thing will be complete. But so there's this cap, and then this one was actually gifted to me, which is one of my favorite caps now. And this is what I'm going to be using for my deck steward cap. But this is an original officer's cap with an original cap badge. And the cool thing too is that this one can be switched between winter and summer because on it is a white cover. So underneath is
Black.
navy blue wool.
Or navy blue. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, black. It's pretty much black. So I
Right.
can alternate without having to switch caps. So that's a nice thing about the cap. And it's got built-in lining.
That's
And
wonderful.
yeah, it's a really nice cap. And so like as you were mentioning earlier about how accessible getting these things is, this one is a Royal Navy standard cap, but it's probably older. It's probably from the 50s or so.
Are they
So,
still about the same today, you think?
roughly, because they have different shapes to them. Because same with the if you were to use an American Navy cap, they would
Mhm.
have a different shape to it.
Oh,
It would be structured differently. Yeah, because even if you can tell between these two, which they're both official, they have different shapes to them. If I can get them both here.
so this brings it while you're holding up those two hats.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm going to bring up the topic really quick of what we Americans call the scrambled eggs.
Oh yeah.
Now, and when I refer to scrambled eggs, that's the leaf design, the gold leaf design that you see on the rim of the cap. Now, can you explain a little bit about what that means and what the differences are between like American scrambled eggs and
Sure.
British scrambled eggs?
Sure. So, just in general, what they mean is, if you look at the officer cap, it's just a plain black shiny brim.
Okay.
Same with the deck steward cap, and
Okay.
all the officers would wear the same kind of cap.
Okay.
But this one, that one's made of like a hard vinyl almost. This one is felt, and
Oh,
it
interesting.
has
Okay.
and it has the scrambled eggs or the leaves.
Now,
So what it would mean in Titanic, Queen Mary, all of the ocean liners, what it would mean is that this is the captain or the commodore's cap. And in the case of the Queen Mary, there would be two because actually three, because you would have the commodore, the captain, and you have the staff captain, and then
but
you would have the chief. The chief engineer would also have one of these on his cap.
anybody with a captain rank or higher if they're commodore,
Would have the
right?
leaves on their brim. Yes.
And just so that everybody understands, a chief engineer and even a staff captain can they will have captain's ranks usually. They will carry the 4 gold braid bands
On their
for their rank
sleeves.
insignia on their sleeves, right, or on their shoulders.
Yeah,
Um,
if they have the summer uniform or the bridge coat on.
but any other deck officer, if they're a lieutenant or
First or second officer.
or a commander,
Mm.
first, second, third, fourth officer, they are all going to not have scrambled
Yeah,
eggs on their hat.
it's the exact cap that they would wear.
Now, James,
I'm glad you guys mentioned that because I was going to ask,
yeah, go ahead.
were at the time the Queen was in service, did Kennard have the same sort of ranks as White Star? Your captain, chief officer, first, second, third, fourth, so on.
Exactly the same, and obviously the designs of the uniforms have changed because if you look at the photos of the Queen Mary's bridge crew, I mean the Queen Mary's, their caps are these peaked, wide, I guess crown, caps that would sit large on their head. And if you look at Titanic's bridge crew, they have small caps that were close to their head, and I don't think many of them had
They're
this.
more what I consider like a stovepipe. It kind of goes
Yeah,
up quite a bit more, and then there's
Right.
just a little bit of a crown
kind of
brim,
similar to railroad caps.
almost like a conductor's cap. Yeah,
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
yeah.
So
Now,
yeah, but
I was gonna say this sounds pretty familiar. Since James, I know you have a little bit more knowledge in the naval aspect of things. Does that sound a lot of familiar? Have a lot of familiarity with you with like U.S. Navy?
With my limited knowledge, yes, for the most part.
Um,
um, what I was gonna mention is that not only did officers wear these too, but the chief purser would wear these kinds of caps. Um, Other official, you know, crew members, I think even Marconi officers would wear these, except I'm pretty sure their cap badge will be replaced with the Marconi badge, like on Titanic.
I should have thrown that picture in with the pictures you had, but you have a picture of John Treasure Jones when he was
Oh, a chief
a
steward.
chief
Yeah,
steward. So, which is very
chief steward.
interesting because you're normally you're so used to seeing you know Captain Jones, or at least wearing some sort of a deck officer's senior officer's uniform,
Hmm.
and to see him with the zigzag, uh, basically like the hotel service type uh, rank insignia on his sleeve is pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I was surprised to see that as well.
Yeah, I'll
But he
I don't.
was wearing the same type of cap I have, though.
He was wearing the
The
same cap you had.
this cap right here.
Wow.
Hmm.
Um.
But those were spread across the ship. A lot of because even the medical staff had them on too. Medical staff would wear those. Because it would, I'm sure it would get confusing to the passengers when they'd be walking around the ship and they'd see an officer walking around and it looks just like the bridge crew officers. But the way you determined was the color of the lacing in between the bars on the sleeve. So for bridge crew, it would just be black because their uniform was navy blue, so they have nothing in between. Hotel staff would be white, so like pursers and things like that, and stewards too. Um, and then for the engineering, it would be purple.
Right. Right. In fact, let's see. White would be hotel.
Yeah.
Um,
And medical staff would be red.
medical staff is red. Purple is engineering. Um, and I'm thinking about more modern day. Let's see. Green is what do they call it? Um, ecological, like
Or
basically
environmental.
environmental. Oh gosh, I'm gonna knock
Yeah.
my microphone off. Yes, environmental officers. Blue is electrical or IT. So if you've got people on board who are handling the Wi-Fi connections, the Ethernet connections throughout the ship, yeah, they wear blue.
Yeah.
The color coding is fascinating on that.
Oh yeah. And that's one of the things that got me interested is because so many of the intricacies in the uniforms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
But yeah, I have other caps other places, but these are the primary ones that I have here.
I'm gonna
And
go ahead and move on to the next picture.
okay.
We are reaching almost the hour and a half mark. We're looking at the deck officer wearing your cap that you had there, or similar cap.
Yeah.
With the
Compared to the original, yeah.
right. So this is taken on board the Queen Mary.
I believe so. I'm not exactly sure because the promenade looked a little different, but
It's hard
it
to
looks very
tell.
similar.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
looks
it
Queen
would be
Mary,
the
but
same uniform though.
and he's got the Cunard deck chair blanket draped over
Mhm.
his shoulder. One of the things that Shilo and I have talked about doing is he's got all of these different uniforms, and we're wanting to go to certain areas of the ship where there are some fairly well known or well seen advertisement photos. Where they will show a deck steward or a regular deckhand.
Mhm.
And then we're going to try and recreate the photograph with Shilo stepping in as the officer or the crew member, and then pose us as like the passengers on board. So I'm hoping we get to do that.
That'll be fun.
Yeah. We're looking at now. I believe this is a pre-war photo. I don't. Can I? I can't blow that up. Can I? No.
Is that them standing with the life ring?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that is pre-war. I think that was 36, if I believe. But I included that in there because their uniforms are different from the post-war uniform. I'm wearing the post-war uniform right now, and this cap would be post-war as well. I'm guessing this would be 1950s, but something that's been interesting me and kind of confusing me a little bit on those uniforms on the post-war was the lapel badge that I have here is not always consistent with the one they wore on their cap.
That's
Sometimes it's
interesting.
larger, smaller.
I also see
Very
wording coming down their lapel. It's hard to
yes.
tell what. Was that
So
basically like your badge there that you've
yeah,
got, but spelled
yeah,
horizontal or
because
vertically?
what I have right now is just a regular notch lapel,
Mm-hmm.
would be what they wore during post-war service. But during pre-war, they had shaw lapels, so they were thinner,
Okay,
and there was no notch indentation in them. So how did I mean, if they had badges like this, they'd be super small. So I'm assuming what they decided to do was to make it run the length of the lapel,
that makes
and they
perfect
didn't
sense.
have yeah, and they didn't have these badges either.
Yeah.
But on their caps, I should put a picture in there because the bellboy hats are very similar. But it would be a cap like this. If you can see in the center, he's got his white cover on,
Mm-hmm.
and then the other ones have the black wool.
Right.
What they would have is just a regular lion, a Cunard lion badge, and that would
Okay.
be their badge on their caps.
Yeah, I see that.
Mhm.
Now the other difference is I'm gonna move on to the next picture in a second, but the other difference I notice is that they're wearing vests. Looks like they're wearing
Bow
vests,
ties.
and then bow ties instead of a regular, um, like a Windsor tie, like what you're wearing.
Yeah.
Oh, there's the photo. That's the photo I was talking about. There's Shilo, who looks like he stepped right out of the late 1940s, early 1950s as a deck officer.
Oh, that the portrait? Yeah.
Yeah, or deck steward, I should say, deck steward. But yeah, that's a great photo. That's the one I put in the thumbnail for the video.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is
Okay.
really nice.
I see it now. Thank you.
I showed that to my mom, and she was like, "He's 18."
Every time, I know.
Now that's more. We can see your age a little bit better. I like the glasses. Um,
We
and
have
that
one in there with the deck steward.
yeah, the deck steward. Yeah, that's the one we're
Mhm.
seeing.
No, we have one of the this is a deck officer.
Oh, deck officer. Oh no, no. No. I switched pictures. I should say.
Oh, okay.
It's now the color photo. You're in
Oh,
the
okay. Yeah, I can see it now.
You've got the
Yeah,
quilted maple wood backing.
yeah.
Um.
Yeah, and this what this uniform would look like, but with the modified cap.
Oh, now was there a difference between first class and second class as far as how the uniforms looked, or were they all the same?
I think, as far as I'm aware, they're all the same, but the different type of stewards did vary because
Okay,
this would be deck steward. So the reason my uniform would have a cap was because we'd be outside. Deck stewards would be outside on the deck.
got it.
And then so they would be exposed to the elements.
And you
If
would,
it's raining,
and deck stewards are basically there for for afternoon tea. If you want something, if you need a blanket, um,
or deck chair
yeah,
arrangement set
arrange.
up, yeah.
Okay,
Or just I guess even directions if somebody gets lost, they direct them to where they need to go.
so they wander the deck as well as looked after the passengers.
And yeah, it's interesting too. I've noticed from a lot of home movies recorded during the 50s and the well early 60s, but usually the 50s, was that the deck stewards would actually like would talk and hang out with the passengers. Like as the ship was departing, they'd be along the handrails with them.
Very friendly. That's
Watching,
very
yeah,
nice.
very friendly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and uh, when I settled on QA2 in '96, they were the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Weather wasn't exactly great during the day, so you didn't see a lot of deck stewards out on deck, in the outside.
Mm-hmm.
But you had, unlike the Queen Mary, where you've got the enclosed promenades with the wood deck, on QE2, it was more like the enclosed promenade was part of like the interior of the ship. But you had a
Yeah.
long stretch of a promenade, um, where there were lots of tables and chairs. There were tables for puzzles. There were big passengers putting puzzles together. But that's where you saw the deck stewards was wandering all through there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Carl
Now,
just asked. Oh, so
yeah,
it's
go ahead.
like Carl just asked me if I've ever met anybody who sailed on the Queen Mary or Queen Elizabeth, and I have once on the Queen Mary, and
Oh wow.
and recently I've been in contact with the drummer of the Queen Mary's last band, so that's
Oh
quite cool.
right. That's awesome.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
He's got some cool stories too. We're gonna put his story on the website I've been working on.
On
So that'll be
the QM Wiki site?
yes.
Okay.
It's Alex's website too.
Alex,
Forgot
yeah,
his name
yes,
too.
Alex. I've contributed some, but it's been mainly Alex and Shilo that have been working on this incredible QM Wiki page, and it's I hope to
Really,
contribute
yeah, we're
more.
good.
So we're looking at you here. At you're on the bow. I think you're on the well deck.
Um,
Wearing your
oh,
peacoat.
it's actually Promenade Deck, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it's right outside the OB. But
Okay.
yeah, so I'm wearing because since then I've actually acquired a captain's jacket, which is a 1950s U.S. Navy jacket, and I've taken the star off the top, so I just have the 4 bands.
Okay.
But
Hold it up a
that's
little bit.
this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. Now we were talking about coats and wearing your rank insignias
On your shoulder.
on your shoulder, right? Like especially in the movie Titanic, where you saw where they were wearing a coat with their rank insignias on the shoulders. Now, have you haven't come up with anything like that yet, correct?
No, because that's like for you know winter cold weather, which we don't really get. I still want to get one of those coats, but I haven't prioritized it because it doesn't get that cold here often. But that would be a bridge coat. So
A bridge
underneath
coat,
that,
right?
underneath that coat, they would have their uniform on with the sleeve rank. But on the shoulders would be their insignia, similar to a summer uniform, except it'd be on their coat.
Right.
Mhm.
Let's see. So we're looking at you now. You're wearing a regular seaman uh, uniform with your
The
with the
quartermaster.
dark, yeah, quartermaster uniform, right? With the black cap or
Yeah.
navy blue cap. That looks
So,
like, is that trying to determine where you're at there in that picture?
oh, that one. Okay, I'm on the bridge in that one, on the starboard side.
Are you near a staircase?
No, I'm on the bridge wing.
On the bridge wing. Okay.
Mhm.
Another
That
great
would be
shot of
good,
you with
black and white as well.
That would be, yeah.
it would, yeah. Another great shot of you with Everett, Commodore Everett.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and that uniform with the scarf is the one I got from England. So that's an official Royal Navy uniform.
Hmm.
And that was the one that cost a little bit because that one is, I had to get it imported and everything. Oh, this one, yeah. And then this is the time I wore my sweater that you're wearing with my wool cap.
They look great together. I think they really
Yeah.
do. Now, was it always white pants with this sweater?
I've seen some pictures and I've seen that, but if not, it would just be navy blue pants too.
Okay, navy blue. Okay.
Yeah. That'd probably be in the dead of winter though.
Now this looks black to me. This is black, correct?
Yeah. And it
Okay.
is black.
Okay.
Yeah. The sweaters are the one thing that were black.
See, in the photos, it's hard to tell, because the cap is technically navy blue, correct?
Yeah.
But they almost look both black in
Yeah.
photographs. But
Yeah, it's hard to tell.
yeah. Okay. Oh, there's a picture of me and Shiloh. We're standing outside on the wharf.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I don't think jeans were the appropriate uniform.
They're dungarees. They're dungarees.
Oh, okay, dungarees. There we go.
Oh yeah, so that's one thing I actually did get too. I got a dungaree shirt. So for summer.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
you'll have to get some pictures taken of you with wearing that.
Yeah.
Now you would wear a white cap with
Cap.
that. Okay.
Yeah. And that's something I still need to get to is a white cap because I only have the original one.
Another shot with you, quartermaster uniform at one of the at
The
the
telegraph.
the warping telegraph.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's the one that I was saying looks great as an aged color photo.
Yeah. From the 60s or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see it now, yeah.
shot with you with forward of the second funnel.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that one, yeah. King of Battleship said Shiloh probably has a time machine.
Shilo, Shilo is the proprietor of a time machine, obviously, because he can mysteriously go back in time.
Yep.
Another great shot with you and Everett in the Commodore's office.
Yeah, I like that photo a lot.
Yeah, that is a great photo.
Oh, and Alex says he really likes the quartermaster uniform too.
Oh,
I do as well. Yeah, that one's a great uniform.
Now there's a shot of you coming down the sun deck stairs onto prom deck
Oh,
into the main hall
as a passenger.
as a passenger. Yes. Yeah. You look like Inspector Gadget. James, did you ever watch Inspector Gadget when you were a kid?
I certainly did.
Yep. Let's see here what we got. Oh, this was when we were about to do a live stream on prom deck.
Oh, when we're setting up, yeah, and
Yeah.
there's your microphone in the picture too.
Yep, and your ashtray, your
Oh, yeah,
light
and
ashtray.
Yep.
And that's it. That's the last one. So
Yep.
James, have you ever dressed up in Navy uniforms when you've gone to Navy ship museum ships?
I have not.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between going because you don't want to do the stolen valor dress as a military officer.
Yeah.
There's a difference between being like a deck steward or
Yeah.
a deck officer on the
Definitely.
Queen Mary and going to a Navy ship.
Yeah.
There's a lot more respect for them as military people.
Mhm.
For their
More times, not to cut you off, but
No, good.
more times than not, when you see people doing that, it's usually someone affiliated with the museum, and they're doing some type of demonstration of some kind. I know the USS Alabama does stuff like that all the time.
Right. And I would also assume that they occasionally get or have events where veterans, Navy veterans, maybe even former crew members or officers have come aboard, wearing their old uniforms.
But most of the time, at least in my experience, I've had, when I go to the Alabama, again, I'll use that as an example. There's a submarine there, USS Drum, and they had a veteran inside the sub, and he didn't serve on that sub, but he served on a similar sub, and you could stop and ask him questions, and he would tell you about his experiences. He could tell you some good information about the subs. You have people on the battleship as well. So it's mostly that. That's been my experience so far.
Yeah.
Mhm. And that's something the Queen Mary needs more of.
Yeah.
I think people would love that. I would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mhm.
Well, Shilo, you've given us a lot of good information.
One last thing I want to do about the cat badge.
Yeah, sure, good.
Because again, if people are interested in getting these kinds of cat badges, is there's the difference between an original and a modern one that's like a reproduction, just to show you. So here again, here's an original, and here's a reproduction.
Now, see, I actually like the reproduction more because it sticks out more. The original one has lost that gold braiding.
Yeah.
In the embroidery work.
What I want to mention here, though, is that the lion is different.
Yes.
The crown is different, if I can hold them. And the overall shape. If you notice that this one is taller than this one.
Yeah, and Cunard's logo has, the lion has changed numerous times over the last.
Oh yeah.
Almost 2 centuries now.
Yeah. But yeah, just for people who are interested in which one is it, because if they find one for sale, which one is a modern one or a reproduction, and which one is an original one? Just here's a comparison.
That's great. Yeah, I like that. I was going to ask you if maybe we can, when we're done with the stream later in the description, if you've got a couple of websites that maybe we can put up that you might recommend to find some stuff at. Anything that you can give information wise, that would be great.
Yeah.
But my goodness, I can't wait to see you in a couple of weeks. We'll be having fun together on the ship.
Yep.
James, we're to you now. Are you ready?
As ready as I'm gonna be.
So the last segment here, and I know we're now at the hour and 42-minute mark, but we're gonna try and see what we can do here. No rush on time, but so in May of this year, I'm going to be making a visit to see the USS New Jersey, which is a Iowa class battleship.
You lucky devil.
and I'm going to get to see her from the dry dock, from inside the bottom of the dry dock. Now, the Iowa class ships, they're roughly, give or take, about the size of Titanic as far as length and as far as
So to be exact, they
Go ahead.
are 5 feet longer than Titanic and 16 feet wider.
5 feet longer, 16 feet wider. What
Yes.
about in displacement tons? Do you know what the difference is between the two, or?
I don't think they had quite the displacement Titanic had.
Okay.
I think it's close.
Okay. But that's probably the only time that I will ever get a chance to experience a ship of that size from standing so close that I will actually be able to touch, her rudder. I'll be able to touch, or rudders, I guess, because she's got twin rudders. To touch the blades of the propeller, and to basically stand underneath a ship of that size. So I'm looking forward to that. And that was one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring James on here, because we're going to talk a little bit about Iowa class battleships. We're going to talk a little bit about the New Jersey, but there were 4 built, and I'm going to let James go into it. So let me get James's images up here really quick.
Now, have either of you toured any naval museum shows?
Well, we went to the Midway together.
Awesome. I've been to the Midway.
So I've
Midway,
been on board the Lane Victory, which is a like a Liberty ship, but a Victory class, Victory ship. I've been on board the Jeremiah O'Brien, which is a Liberty, and I've been on board smaller museum ships, destroyers and submarines. But
Right. So
yeah.
I was going to say, just running from West Coast to East Coast, I've been on the Midway, the USS Cavala, the USS Stewart, which are both at the Galveston Naval Museum. I did the dry dock tour of the USS Texas in November. USS Kidd, that's the one that's geographically closest to me. The Alabama, which the USS Drum is also there, and the USS North Carolina.
Wow.
It's a lot easier to tour naval vessels because there's just so many more, whereas ocean liners, I mean, unless I'm forgetting one, there's just the Queen Mary because you can't tour the Big U. Am I correct on that?
Yep. Unless you got $1,000.
Right, which I don't have to tour the ship as much as I would like to.
Right. I did forget one. Shilo, you should have reminded me. We were on the Midway together.
I said that.
He did. He said that.
He did say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Shilo,
Yeah, and
you've been on there numerous times, right?
Yeah, lots of times. Yeah, but I've been to other museum ships like submarines. I've been aboard some Russian subs and American subs.
Yeah, can you believe I never went aboard the Russian submarine at the Queen Mary? Never been aboard.
I was about to ask you guys that because I know that sub is there. What is the deal with that sub?
Oh God. Okay, so that's a.
Give me the Cliff Notes version.
Well, it's
as short as you can make it.
It's a risk right now, but
it's a Foxtrot class Russian diesel submarine.
Yeah.
Built in the early 70s. It was brought to Long Beach in 97 They had actually removed a portion of the rock jetty that surrounds the ship, so they could actually float it into place, and then they placed the rocks back to form the jetty. It had been it was a really popular tour, but the guy that owned the submarine died, and it got transferred to this business associate or whatever that owns it, but representation and responsibility just left. No maintenance,
Gotcha.
no no upkeep whatsoever, and it finally got to a point to where they had to close the submarine. They couldn't give tours on board anymore. It's had flooding. It's been invaded by raccoons, cats.
Yeah.
It's been in danger of sinking a couple of times. The outer hull is a complete rust, nightmare.
Right.
I've been told that her inner hull is halfway decent, but apparently it does have some issues. The city wants to get rid of it, but the expense for getting rid of it is the problem.
Yeah.
To
Well, they also have
go ahead.
the whole thing with the owner thing is still an issue as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's going to be responsible for it? But yeah,
and that the controversy of I was trying to make a Titanic reference. You know how like Titanic people get like all uppity if you start talking about like the swapping Olympic
Yeah.
Titanic conspiracy
Yeah.
theories. So Queen Mary people will get upset about talking about the submarine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha.
We
Well,
would
to be fair, the switch theory is ridiculous, but we're not going to get into that.
Right, exactly. So getting rid of the submarine is like the ultimate thing that we would love to see. Because it just doesn't belong there. I never really thought it belonged there.
You know, on top of that, if the submarine is gone, then that ticket booth and former gift shop would be
the Quonset hut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get rid of the Quonset hut. Yeah.
And that would just make when you take a picture of the ship, you would actually get a picture of the ship, not other things in the foreground.
I agree.
Oh, that'd be nice as well.
So, James, I think you can probably see it now. I've got the comparison photo that you got there. So go ahead and give us a little explanation on the comparison photo.
Yeah, so we started off talking about the the length, the width of the ship comparison to Titanic. This is how the Iowas compared in size to previous generation battleships that the United States built. It's funny that they have the South Dakota class up there at the top. I guess they're doing that because it was smaller than the North Carolina class, but the South Dakota class, which the Alabama is a part of, was a newer class of ship than the North Carolina. And I guess because the North Carolina is just slightly bit longer, that's why they did it that way. But yeah, it was just more of a comparison to show you how big the Iowas are compared to the ships that came less than 10 years before it.
Right. So these are all basically like right in that World War II era, late 30s to early 40s.
Oh, definitely. Because at the time of Pearl Harbor, most of the U.S. fleet, I'm sure you've seen pictures of the Arizona. We all have a good idea of what she looked like. She was like a dreadnought ship. Most of the U.S. fleet was like the Arizona. The Arizona was almost the age of the Olympic when the Olympic was scrapped at the time of the attack.
Wow.
And a lot of our ships were aged like that at the time of Pearl Harbor. So, yeah, after Pearl Harbor, this was the ships you're seeing here was the World War II, like you say.
And if you could make the comparison really quick between like North Carolina, which was the class just before the Iowas, if I remember correctly.
So they've got it a little mixed up here. The Iowas were last, the South Dakotas were second to last, and the North Carolinas were before that.
Well, they really messed me up, didn't they? But okay.
Yeah, like I said, I think they did this graphic just because they did it this way. I think just because the North Carolinas were slightly longer than the South Dakotas. That's what I think.
But I mean,
It looks
you
like
talk about the size comparison. I mean, the jump in size between
Right.
those two classes, the South Dakota and the North Carolina, and the Iowa, and which I understand that not to I don't know if you know very much, but I knew that there was another class of battleship that was even on like the drawing board to follow the Iowas that were never
Yes.
constructed.
Yeah, that would have been the Montana class, which I was very sad that they did not make those. What happened there was the Montana class was supposed to be the answer to Japan's Yamato.
Okay.
And what happened was essentially Midway. I think it was Midway and the Battle of the Coral Sea. Is at that point in the war was when the United States kind of figured out that air superiority and not big boats with big guns was not only going to end up winning the war, but it was going to be the wave of the future.
Yeah.
So the Montanas were scrapped. There were supposed to be 6 Iowas in total. There were supposed to be Kentucky and Indiana. The hulls were constructed, but they never saw the light of day past that.
Yeah. Wow. So we're lucky.
However,
I guess we're lucky to have all. I mean, we still have all 4. There's only one North Carolina,
yes.
Correct? Is there any South Dakota? Oh, the Alabama is a South Dakota. You said.
The Alabama is a South Dakota, and the Massachusetts, which is also preserved, they are South Dakotas. North Carolina only had one sister ship, USS Washington, and she was scrapped.
Okay. So out of, let's see, we've got 4, 6, 4, 6, 8, 4, 6, 8. So out of 8, there's 5 left, right? Or 6 left.
6. The 4 Iowas. No, me and Matt don't work together. The 4 Iowas, the North Carolina, the Alabama, and the Massachusetts.
And the Massachusetts. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. 6 out of 8. 6. Yeah. 6 out of 8. Wow. All right. I'm gonna move on to the next picture here. So we're looking at all 4 Iowas. Go ahead and give us a little explanation on this photograph.
Okay. I'm just waiting for it to come up. Just bear with me a second.
Sure. No problem.
I'm pretty sure I know which one you're talking about, though. Okay. Yes. So this is the only time in history that all 4 Iowas ever sailed together.
Wow.
And
photo. What year was this about?
This was, I believe, in 1953. If it wasn't 53, it was 54.
Okay. So
yeah,
I put this out of chronological order because I was trying to place them in chronological order, but I wanted to show all 4. I think because the next one I'm going to show are the construction photos, but
right.
But this is, as far as you know, this was the only time, right, that we're all 4 together.
It is the only time in history that they sailed together. The New Jersey's YouTube page actually did a video on this a while back, and I forget the exact reason, but it was something to the they put them all together, and they had them together for I think one mission. This was during peacetime, or if it was during the Korean War, it wasn't actually near Korea, and they had them all together, and eventually what ended up happening, that they figured out there were 2 reasons that it only happened one time. For one, Pearl Harbor. If you remember Battleship Row.
Right. You don't want
they
them
wiped
all in the
out
same spot.
all of our fleets. Yes, exactly.
Makes sense.
So after that point, they kept 2 in the Atlantic and they kept 2 in the Pacific. So that was one reason why they only had them together once. One of the other reasons was this was after World War II. We were pretty much the only country that had battleships of this caliber in the world. So there was also the thought, well, there's nothing that can really compete with this type of squadron, so we don't really need to have all 4 of them together.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, this being the only time they ever sailed all together, they were all in the same place at the same time.
It's a good thing that they at least were able to do it once. I mean,
Yeah.
Save for photo prosperity.
Yeah, and I forget what was the name of the officer that had the foresight to take this photo or recommended being taken, because I think someone else was like, this ain't no big deal. Yeah, it is. It's the only time they were ever together.
Wow, that's incredible. So we're
And actually, we have a comment, King of Battleships. That picture was taken when the captain of Wisconsin realized Missouri was going to be decommissioned, so they did that photo. Yes, and I believe Missouri was decommissioned the year after this photo was taken.
wow.
Hmm.
So we're taking a look at construction photos of the Iowa.
Yes.
Looks like we can see the keel or one of the longitudinal girders. But it looks like I think the center one we're seeing is the keel there.
Right.
And
Mhm.
now these were all built in the were they built? Let's see what yard were they built in?
So they were built in two different shipyards. Iowa and Missouri were built at the New York Naval Shipyard, whereas New Jersey and Whiskey were built at Philadelphia.
Whiskey being Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay.
She has the temper.
And I think this is also an Iowa photo. Says New York Yard, 1940, USS Iowa, BB-61, view looking forward.
Yeah, which makes sense, because if you look at the back end of that photo, I don't know. I always described it as, the bow on the Iowas. You ever notice it gets really, really thin, and when you get forward, I always kind of likened it to like a crocodile snout.
I agree. Yeah, you're right.
Mhm.
Let's see here. So we're looking at the launching of the USS Missouri, and you said Missouri was built where again?
Let's see, Missouri was built with Iowa at New York.
In New York. Okay. Were they built side by side, or how did that work out? You know.
No, I forget exactly the order in which they went into service, but I know Missouri, she was either second to last or last to go into service.
Moonser's
I think you
asking.
had two in service, basically a year before the other two went into service.
Were all four? Did all four see service in World War II, or did some make it after the end of the war?
No, they were all in World War II.
They were all in World War II. Okay. Let's see here. The next one. So this is a New Jersey at sea, and I couldn't date this, but I'm looking at the reconnaissance aircraft on her stern. I guess that's reconnaissance. Is it reconnaissance or is it torpedo?
Let's see. It is it's kind of hard to tell in that photo.
Do you know if this is World War II or would this be possibly like Korean War era?
I'm going to say this is pre-Vietnam, because if you look at the bow, she does not have that what you the disc cone cage antenna is not yet mounted to the ship. So this
Correct.
would be pre-Vietnam.
Pre-Vietnam, but could be it could be Korean War, possibly.
It
And
could
not,
be, yes.
Okay, gotcha. When do you know when they in Vietnam era did she still have her stern um, crane? She didn't have aircraft though anymore by Vietnam, correct?
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure, but as far as I know, the crane was never removed.
Okay. King of Battleships might know. King of
Yeah,
Battleships.
yeah, he might know. He kind of reminds me of Wolf Lord in my Discord. He's like, our warships guy.
Right, exactly.
In fact, he's giving us the dates. Iowa's commissioned February 24th, 43. New Jersey, May 23rd, 43. Missouri, June 11th, 44. And Wisconsin, April 16th, 44.
Now we're looking at New Jersey, and boy, I'm probably gonna screw this up. The Richelieu,
Richelieu.
uh, French.
Yes.
Okay, so this would be Atlantic service, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Anything to tell about this photograph? We're seeing the New Jersey here.
Not much to say other than I just thought it was a nice photo of the ship, and seeing the Richelieu next to it. That's a pretty nice looking ship as well.
And they look fairly comparable in size. I don't know how much of a difference in size they were, but that's a pretty impressive battleship, especially for pre-French, use.
Right.
This is a very interesting photo. This is the Wisconsin in Pearl in 1944, and she is docked right adjacent to the remains of the USS Oklahoma after she had been
Yes.
righted back, and for salvage.
Yes.
Wow.
And that's a great one just because you can compare an Iowa class to what a dreadnought would have been, and look at the immense size difference between the two.
Yeah. Oh, Wolf Lord's here. Speaking of Wolf Lord.
Oh yes.
He said that French battleship USS Massachusetts fought her sister ship, the Jean Bart, during World War II. Wow.
Oh yeah, I knew Wolf was going to be excited when we started talking some Iowas here. Wolf is my resident warships guy. When I got a question, I go to Wolf.
Yeah, the size comparison between Oklahoma and Wisconsin is,
Yeah, it's insane.
it is insane.
And a fun story, real quick.
Yeah.
This involves the USS Texas. When I did the dry dock tour, one of the stories they told that stood out to me with like these old dreadnoughts, the guns could only get up to like a certain angle. And I forget exactly what degree that was. And when they needed to fire at a higher angle, what they would do is flood the opposite side of the ship so it would get a list so they could get the angle they need of the guns to fire at their intended target. Whereas, the newer ones like the Iowas and the South Dakotas, they didn't need to do that. But
Right.
it was just a fun little story they told us.
I've read about that too. Yeah, that's fascinating. Now I'm noticing this is a picture of Missouri, and again, I couldn't tell the time period that this was taken, but it's obviously before that transmitter antenna was added to the bow, so we know it's pre-Vietnam. But I'm noticing that there's a gun turret on the bow. Now did that go away? Because I don't think the gun turret is there today, is it?
I don't think it is. You got me curious of something. I got a Missouri model up here. Let me look at that real quick.
Okay. And if King of Battleships and Wolf Lord wants to step in and speak about that gun turret, that bow gun turret just kind of sticks out. Like I don't remember seeing that in later photos.
So there's actually two of them, and if you look on this model, it's got them on here. And as far as I know, this model would have been one of the original configurations that the ship had. So my guess is this would be no later, or Korean War at the absolute latest.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow. Okay, I'll move on to the next picture here. So we've now stepped into was it August 15th, 1945? The BJ the signing over of surrender from Japan aboard the USS Missouri. We're looking at that.
King of Battleships says they could only get up to 30 degrees, talking about the dreadnoughts, and Iowas could elevate theirs up to 45 degrees. And he says the bow gun turret is 40 millimeter, he thinks, and anti-aircraft guns.
If I remember correctly, there was a difference in their degree of angle of attack and all that, from the barrels. between like the twin main turrets on the bow versus the aft turret, if I remember correctly. There was a slight difference in how they could angle themselves.
Yeah, and Wolf is telling us none of those anti-aircraft guns are on the Iowas anymore. He thinks they were all took off in the refit that happened in the 80s.
Yeah, that would make sense. I've always thought it was really interesting how the let's see, that wasn't, yeah, that was the Emperor shows up in a top hat.
So that's actually not the Emperor. I
Oh.
forget the guy's name, but he was he of course says his name, and he says something to the effect of either acting on behalf or acting with the blessing of the Emperor. And I'm sorry, I apologize, I forget his name.
You know what? Yeah, I knew it wasn't the Emperor. I don't know why I said that, but that shows my lack of knowledge of a lot of this. My brain can only handle so much, but he was.
I'm with you.
He was a what do you call it? An attaché. You know, he was part of the
their delegation.
The delegation from the of the Emperor. But the fact that he showed up in top hat, I think in tails too, top hat and tails.
Like tails,
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always had I bookend World War II for us. I've always had this thought, how with World War II for us, the United States, it's bookended with battleships.
Yeah.
The Arizona Pearl Harbor, the signing of Japan's surrender right here on the decks of the Missouri.
Right. And I think we're looking at, is that Douglas MacArthur that we're seeing sitting?
That is, yes.
Mm.
Yep, that is Douglas MacArthur.
Of all the Iowas, I would say that the Missouri has the highest rank in history, mainly because of the surrender signing on board.
I would say she's the most famous one,
Yeah.
specifically because of this event. And she was chosen because Truman, of course, was from Missouri. And I believe she was like the admiral's flagship at the time when the war came to the end.
Yeah.
And this would be on the starboard side, forward section, where that actually happened. And if you like, I can show you on the model exactly where this is on the ship.
Yeah, show us really quick, and then I'll move on to the next picture.
So right here, where my index finger is, the surrender would have taken. It would have happened right here.
Wow. And every officer and crew on that ship is has worked their way into getting a viewing spot for this occasion.
Imagine being anyone on that ship at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, I'll move on. Oh, here we go again with the delegation. You've got several Japanese officials there wearing top hats and tails.
Hey, a real quick tangent for a sec. I posed this question to my audience one time. I just want to get you guys' opinions. Out of these two, which is the most famous ship that never sunk? The Missouri or the Queen Mary?
Oh, golly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's tough.
It is tough because you've got a lot of people who are, have, especially anybody who might, who is still alive from that time period, that remembers, all of that.
King of Battleships answered our question as to who the gentleman is. Foreign Minister Memaru, and I'm going to butcher these names, guys. I'm sorry. Shigemitsu, signed on behalf of the Emperor. General Yoshihiro Umezu, signed for the Japanese Army.
There we go. So we're skipped on to Korean War era, and this is a photograph of New Jersey firing her guns during Korean War. Now I'm not sure because I'm noticing that she's doing multiple salvos here, which was not normally a tactic in battle. It was more for a photo shoot basically. But was this actually a battle shoot? Do you think?
There's no when I look at the photo, there was no explanation in the detail of the photo, so I could not say for sure one way or another.
I know
I could.
I know that firing all 9 guns at the same time was like an extreme rare thing.
So a fun little story about that involving Big Whiskey, the Wisconsin. So during the Korean War, Wisconsin was shelling an area in Korea. I forget exactly where it was and what they were shelling, but they had return fire coming against them, and the ship was hit by this return fire. Fortunately, no lives were lost, and I think like 3 sailors were injured, and that was the extent of the damage. Well, in response, Wisconsin aimed all 9 guns, fired on that spot, and just completely obliterated the area.
Really?
Yeah. And the comedic part to that story is I forget what it was. The USS Eaton, I think it was. They signaled the ship with lamps or some kind of way, and they were like, "Temper, temper."
Wow. Oh, I remember reading about that. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
So I always kind of crack the joke of, the Wisconsin is the ship with the bad temper.
With the bad temper, right? Exactly. Let's see. I'll move on to this is a color photo of Wisconsin firing during the Korean War, which is a really great photo.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's see. Moving on. So this is a shot of New Jersey, and it looks again all nine guns pointed towards the coastline, firing at once, and the gosh the pressure wave from the guns, you can see
Right.
the impact on the water surface
Mhm.
coming from those gun barrels. That's incredible.
So King is telling us something. You couldn't fire all 9 guns at the same time. You had to wait half a second to fire each barrel so the shield didn't throw each other off target. So
That makes
not
lot of
all
sense.
exact, but close enough.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So we're looking at a photograph of, according to the photograph, Wisconsin, New Jersey, and Iowa. They all seem to be laid up side by side by side. Is this a? Do you know anything about this photograph?
I think this is when I don't remember if they were in mothball or if they were decommissioned at this point.
Okay.
But one thing I've not been clear about is New Jersey's got like these little dome-looking things on the forward section of the ship. You can see 2 at the bow, and then 3, one above the main turret, and then 2 to the sides.
I see that.
I've never known exactly what those are. So if Wolf or Battleship, King of Battleships, can tell us what those are, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, moving on. So we're, in fact, I think it was it King of Battleships that was just bringing it up? Yeah, King of Battleships was just bringing up the collision with the USS Eaton. We're looking at the bow of the Wisconsin.
Yes.
Reminds me a lot of the Queen Mary's bow when she hit the Curacao.
So yeah, in one small way, you could say the never finished Kentucky exists, because what they did before they scrapped the hull of the Kentucky was they took the bow and attached it to Wisconsin.
That's wow. That's very interesting.
Yeah.
It's obvious that Wisconsin has a little more bow damage than than the Queen Mary had received when she hit that when she hit the Kurosawa. Um, but I'm assuming that she had very little internal flooding. It looks like she's underway with absolutely no problem.
Yeah, I'm sure she was totally fine.
Yeah.
Oh, and Wolf says the domes are covering up the anti-aircraft guns, so they're just
course.
covers.
Got it.
Hmm.
So we've stepped into Vietnam era, and we're looking at the New Jersey uh, at some kind of a firing during the war. Now, James
Yep.
and I were talking about this, and maybe you can go into explanation. Now, if everybody looks at the bow of the New Jersey, the one of the huge visual differences that I've noticed between like World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam is, or at least Vietnam with this, and then 80s with the other ships that were brought into back into service, was the addition of this big aerial antenna that's at her bow. Go ahead and explain a little bit about that.
So what I've learned about it, it's called a disc cone cage antenna, and it's a transmitter for high frequency radio. So New Jersey was the only battleship in the world in service at the time during the Vietnam War. They had her. They put New Jersey back into service because she was the last one that got a refit, upgrades, modernization. So they brought her back, and it was about that time in the '60s that they installed that antenna on there. The rest of them did not get it until they were reactivated in the '80s.
Wow. All right, I'm gonna go back to the next picture. I know we're reaching the 2 hour and 20 minute mark. I'm gonna try and wrap it up by 2.5 hours.
Understood.
So we're looking now. We've jumped ahead again. We're in 1984. We're looking at the Iowa again, firing, all 9 guns, not at the same time, but within
Close enough.
close enough. Though these shots of her doing of any of the Iowas doing this during the 80s and during the Gulf War in the 90s, just blows my mind away. And I was particularly in this photograph. Look at the lateral movement that the entire ship makes in the water.
Mm-hmm.
Those guns are literally forcing that ship to what would be her port side. She must be doing a lateral move. It looks at least like 15, 20 feet.
Yeah, definitely. And you mentioned this earlier, and the more I think about it, you might be right. This might be like a publicity shot that they were doing. But yeah, the list that these guns cause when firing is just insane.
Yeah. Incredible. And we're looking at, again, the Iowa here in 1984. This is an aerial shot, high overhead. Excuse me. That's what I get for drinking. I have to drink something because my mouth gets so dry.
Yeah, I go through that a lot when I stream, as you know.
Yes, but you do other things in your stream, but we won't talk about that.
Some things are just better left unsaid.
Some things are better left unsaid, correct. This is an incredible photo because you see the what's the word I'm looking for? The pressure wave again from the guns making their impression onto the water surface, and this aerial shot has captured the entire wave. Again, just unbelievable.
And you notice on the stern, we were talking about the crane on the very stern. Now
Correct.
in the '80s, it looks like that's gone, and the stern is a landing pad for a helicopter.
Now was there a makeshift hangar for a helicopter to be basically based on board?
Not that I am aware of, but don't hold me to that.
Again, Wolf Lord or King of Battleships. I've never seen a structure.
No, I have not either.
Yeah. And it looks like there's some kind of a launch, though. If you notice, there's a launch, like a boat, right aft of the aft turret.
Maybe a lifeboat.
Yeah.
That's a pretty big boat.
Hmm.
And again, we're pretty sure that this is probably a publicity photo. Oh, and now the angled boxes. You know, if you look at the superstructure and just after the funnel of the aft funnel, you've got angled boxes, and then there's perpendicular boxes to the center line of the ship between the funnels. Are those missile launchers?
I believe those are the missile launchers.
Okay, Tomahawk missiles.
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
they were Tomahawk missiles.
Okay. All right, moving along here.
And
Another great shot. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, during the Gulf War, Wisconsin and Missouri, I believe, are the only two that actually used them. They were the only ones who shelled, enemy locations.
Okay. So we're looking at the New Jersey firing, and I believe this is also, I think this is Gulf War era, correct?
I would say yes. And what I especially love about this is, the second forwardmost turret is firing in the completely other direction.
Yes.
I just think it's an amazing shot.
It is. Which obviously wouldn't make any sense in a actual battle scene, but it makes a great photograph.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
King of Battleships is saying the Iowas did not have a hangar even for seaplanes because if they got in battle, you could push the plane into the water.
Makes sense to me.
Yes.
And I'm assuming it sounds as though you had a landing pad for the helicopters, but they weren't necessarily on board while the ship was like going across an ocean at where she was at sea. It was more for transporting stuff, either
That's what it seems like.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my impression. Wolflord does say the USS Salem and her sisters had hangars for aircraft.
And they were heavy cruisers.
Which were like pocket battleships almost.
Which the helicopter transport thing makes even more sense now that I think about it, because I have a USS North Carolina model. And that ship also had the crane on the back for picking up the planes and whatnot. Yet the model that I have came with a helicopter. So the transportation thing makes sense, with me thinking about that.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here. We're again looking at the New Jersey. This is another shot, I think, also dating to Gulf War era. All three of her guns are facing now on her port side. But again, I was hearing something about. I think you were talking about this in your live stream last night about how one of the ships had so much fire, so much smoke from firing her guns that another ship had reported that they thought the ship was on fire.
So it's a story about the USS North Carolina, and it was during World War II. She was under attack, and her anti-aircraft guns were firing, and the rate in which she was firing them and the smoke that was coming off it got so intense. From what I understand, almost the entire ship was engulfed in the smoke. And the captain from the, I think it was the Enterprise, as Wolf pointed out last night, messaged North Carolina and asked, "Are you afire?" Which she wasn't.
That's crazy. All right, we'll take a look here. This is definitely a very modern photo. It's probably not, far away from
Definitely
retirement, but New Jersey again firing her guns. Wow.
Now you've been on you said you've told me you've been on the Missouri. I mean, not Missouri, New Jersey, correct?
When I was 13 years old, she was at Long Beach for Fleet Week. I got to go aboard the Missouri, the New Jersey, and then 2 years later, I think it was about 15 or 16, the Nimitz and the USS Antietam, which was a guided missile cruiser, was in port. And the cool thing about the Nimitz was we weren't allowed to go. We couldn't go into the hangar deck, and we couldn't go into the island, but we could walk the flight deck. So what they did was they brought one elevator down, and they had the gangways and everything all set up to where you could board the elevator, and then they lifted that elevator up to the flight deck. We got to walk all around the flight deck. And we went down to the aft end, and then we went down that elevator.
Nice.
Yeah. So even though we didn't get to see the island, we didn't get to see the hangars, to see the aircraft and all that on the flight deck was really cool, and to ride the elevators. I think that was the coolest part.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the Nimitz you got to go on.
And it was the Nimitz, yep. But for the best internal tour was definitely the Antietam. We got to see, the combat command center and all that stuff. We get to see crew quarters. We saw the galleys. Yeah, everything.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is the Wisconsin in 1990. I have to say they are real sleek ships.
They are.
For being a military vessel. They've got lines. They've got beautiful lines.
That's definitely a more recent shot of Wisconsin,
right?
Because you can see the mast on the bow.
Right, and this is definitely a more modern shot because we're seeing a Tomahawk missile being launched from Wisconsin during the Gulf War here.
Battleships King of Battleships made a comment. Wisconsin also launched a drone to which the Iraqis surrendered to. The only time in history they couldn't see the ship over the horizon, so they surrendered to the drone.
Sounds about right. So now we're moving into the museum era. We're going to take a look at all four of the ships. Luckily, all four ships are museums now. This is the USS Iowa in her museum ship condition. I don't know how old this picture is. Do you know?
I do not. I believe the ship was handed over as recently as 2012, so maybe around then. I'm not certain though.
She's changed locations about 3 times since she's.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, she was originally like up near the cruise terminal. Then she moved south of the cruise terminal. And now they're wanting to move her again. They want to move her a little further south in the channel. Yeah.
Any reason for that?
They want to expand the cruise terminal. That's basically what they
Of course.
Yeah. Again, we're looking at the Iowa.
Which, by the way, is about a 20-minute drive or so, as I understand it, from the Queen Mary.
Oh, less than that. Probably more like.
There you go.
Yeah. It's straight over Terminal Island and across. Unless you run into traffic, you shouldn't have any problem.
Right.
Yeah. So here we're seeing the Missouri. Actually, looks like she's being brought into Pearl to become a museum ship.
This one's significant because I understand it. This is her last sailing, and she is arriving at Pearl Harbor in this photo to become a museum ship.
So she's not even really under power. She's being towed.
That's what it looks like. Yeah. You got the line here at the bow.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'll blow that up a little bit here, but this is the Missouri Today. Boy, I'd love to play that battleship movie scene, but I'll get copyright dinged for that one.
Right. It's the only good part of the movie.
Yep, pretty much. So we're looking at the Wisconsin at her in her museum life now. And now the Wisconsin. So I've been aboard the New Jersey. I've seen the Iowa. I've seen the Missouri from the air.
Amazing.
But I have never laid eyes on the Wisconsin before. Where is she at?
She is in Norfolk, Virginia.
She's in Norfolk, Virginia. Okay.
Yeah, geographically, she's the closest one to me.
Okay. And again, the Wisconsin.
There's an amazing shot, and I didn't get to send it to you. If you look at the very tip of the bow, there's a street that runs down there. And when you're driving up this street in the direction of the ship, she just looks massive. It's unbelievable.
No. So we're looking at the New Jersey, which just to give you everybody a little understanding where she's located. She's on the Delaware River in Philadelphia. She is literally like less than a mile. Oh, probably even less than a half mile from the SS United States. You could probably actually see the New Jersey if you were standing on the stern of the SS United States today. So
when you go, you're getting 2 for 1.
Yeah. So when I make my trip to go see the New Jersey, I will definitely be making a trip to the SS United States, at least to see her from the outside gates. I am trying to see if I can make any kind of connections to get something more. But yeah, I will definitely be paying some homage to her.
Definitely get as close as you can legally get.
As close as I can legally get. Or as close as I can get without getting into trouble. I don't know about legally.
Well, that's your choice. I'm just erring on the side of caution.
Exactly. Now, to let everybody know, on March 21st, which is let's see, March 31st is what day? Is that Thursday?
Let me see.
Let's pull up the calendar.
Yes, that is a Thursday.
So on Thursday, March 21st, unless there's any kind of delay or weather conditions that may change the situation, the New Jersey is supposed to move by tugboats down the Delaware River to her positioning port for being placed into dry dock. She will pass by the SS United States. This is all going to be covered by, I'm sure, like multiple YouTube channels. The Battleship New Jersey channel is supposed to be having live streaming of the towing. It would be nice. She was obviously not going to have any kind of a horn, but they're at least going to pass by the SS United States. So I would love to see that image. But if you have the opportunity to get online and watch some of the live streaming of her moving down the Delaware, I would take advantage of that.
I really hope someone has the foresight to get a really good shot, or preferably video, with the big U in the forefront and the New Jersey going past her in the background.
Yeah, I agree. And that was the last picture. We have reached the end.
Oh, okay.
I want to look at the chat really quick if we had any comments or questions. Wolf Lord says, fun fact, across from New Jersey is the USS Olympia. Oh, yes. I didn't know she was right across, really. The last ship to have served during the Spanish-American War. What, Wolf Lord, was Olympia related in class to the Maine? We'll have to wait for his response.
While we're waiting, did you guys get to watch any of the live stream of the undry docking of the Texas?
I saw some drone footage of not of the undry docking, but I saw her being moved out to be positioned for towing.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I didn't see any of the filling of the tub or anything. Did you?
I didn't get to see the whole stream, but they were still basically prepping her to be moved when I was forced to stop watching.
Shilo, have you been aboard the Iowa?
No, because when we went to go, we went close to closing time.
So that's something we should maybe plan on doing when you make a trip up, to the Queen Mary. We'll do an Iowa day.
Yeah.
Yes, you should, and get pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
there is one thing unique to the Iowa. So a little fact about her during World War II. FDR sailed on the Iowa to meetings in Cairo and Tehran with Churchill and Stalin, and they had a bathtub installed on the Iowa for him. He was not able to use it because of his paralysis, but I've never known if they left it on the ship or if they ever removed it at some point.
So the yeah, it's funny how vehicles, and I'm referring to ships, planes, trains, have all had special equipment built in to handle Franklin Delano Roosevelt.
Indeed.
Uh, Special bathtubs, special elevator or chair lifts. I'm familiar with the Ferdinand Magellan, which was a private railroad car. It was a Pullman business car that was modified for presidential use later in his presidency. But before that, it was just a regular Pullman leasable car, and he had leased it numerous times. But when wartime broke out, they realized that they needed to protect it. So they put, they added armored plating.
Right.
They added like 2-inch thick glass. But they wanted to be able to either take him off the train or bring him onto the train in a much quicker manner. So they installed a very small elevator like that would be able to lift him up into the car. And they did the same thing on was a modified, I think it was a modified military transport plane that he had used as well. They got the same treatment. Just fascinating stuff, with all. And I knew about the bathtub on the Iowa. Yeah, that's incredible. Wolf Lord said no. Olympia isn't a sister to the USS Maine, so we got that cleared out. Well, guys, we're now reaching 2 minutes and 40. I think this is actually a record for me. I don't think I've gone 2 hours and 40 minutes into a live stream, but
it's definitely a record for me.
We can go another 20 minutes and make 3 hours, but I am tired. I am ready to call it a day.
Yeah, it's getting to be dinner time over here.
It's getting to be dinner time. Yeah, it's going to be soon dinner time. Shilo, any last words?
Not that I think of, no.
So, Shilo, we're gonna get to see you. I'll show you in videos and stuff when we see each other in a couple of weeks.
That's right. Yeah.
And James, I am so glad that you were able to join us today. We will definitely do this
My
again.
pleasure.
I think we had. I hope you had fun.
Absolutely.
I sure did. Learn a lot every time we have these types of conversations.
Yeah.
And I think some of the audience did too. I think some of the viewers did.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to thank everybody for joining us for this live stream. I hope we interacted with you a little bit more this time around. I've been trying to make that. If you haven't had the opportunity, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed, well, actually, you would have to be a subscriber if you're in the live chat. But if you haven't subscribed and you're just watching the video, please subscribe to the Blue Ribbon channel. It'll definitely help us out. Trying to make the channel grow more and more. Yeah, Ozzy said it right. Steve needs alcohol.
Beer and tacos.
Oh gosh, that sounds so good right now. Actually, I'm making enchiladas tomorrow night. But that's for tomorrow night.
Nice.
So shout out again to Aaron, K4RNA, King of Battleships, Wolf Lord, Evan, Scott. Oh, I'm glad I saw you. I saw you in here earlier. Matthew Mahoney, Moonzer, Ozzy. Wow, all of you. I can't even go on. Everybody, thank you very much, and we'll say goodnight. Oh, wait. We're gonna go out with some music, weren't we? We're gonna go out with some music.
Oh.
Let you guys have a little bit of a chance to say goodbye on the chat. So here we go. There we go. Now we're playing it. All right, now we can say our goodbyes. James, I'll probably see you. Oh, by the way, James has a live stream that he does every Friday night at 5 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern, correct?
That is correct.
And then you also have a lot of content that you bring out on a weekly basis, right? What is your schedule for your content?
We usually do like a random little video short. The 5 days of the week, it could be about anything and everything. I have a weekly video that comes out every Friday morning, 7 o'clock my time. It's usually travel or history related, or it's a video of me building one of my models. And 7 p.m. every Friday my time is our 1 hour live stream.
Which is fun too. I was on it a couple weeks ago with him, and we have a lot of fun for that 1 hour, or sometimes an hour and a half.
Yes. And if you want to go back and watch that, it is, I forget exactly how I worded it, but I think it was called Queen Mary Talk, and there is 2 parts because my computer crapped out halfway through it. So it's broken up into 2 parts.
And Shilo has a channel, the HBC channel. Shilo is really, he's into the period clothing. He's into the period music. He has a lot of audio files on his HBC channel. Tell us a little bit about the HBC.
Well, primarily, it was started originally to digitize, 78 RPM records, but then I started making content Queen Mary related. So it's like a 1940s experience with pictures and music on board the RMS Queen Mary.
Wow. Well, thank you very much, everybody. We're gonna see you later. Have a good week, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.